Alrighty. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to call our special meeting of the Town Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Today is Monday, August 4th, 2025, and it's 6:36 p.m. My name is Robert Klee, and I'm the chair of the Woodbridge Town Planning and Zoning Commission. Other members of the commission who are with us here tonight are Jeff Kennedy, the vice chair, and TPZ members Ben Cherry, Paul Schatz, and TPC alternates Kathy Hunter and Robert Wisnia. Andrew Skolnick may be coming, but in our normal rotation of alternates, it would normally be Sarah Locke for today, but she's not here, so we're going to have Kathy Hunter serve as the alternate. Great.
And you need to temporarily seat somebody for Aaron, who's not here because he recused himself.
Oh, so then we need to seat Aaron Hoffman has recused himself. Thank you. So
Right.
we'll seat. Is that
Bob.
Andrew? We'll seat. But Andrew's
However,
coming.
Andrew is here, so now we're back to seating Kathy.
So we're just seating Kathy because Andrew's here. All right. As always, Chris Sullivan, thank you for all your support. You are our land use analyst and zoning enforcement officer. It's nice to meet you in person. Thank you to the members of the public for joining us. Our agenda tonight was on the town website, and tonight we will start with a public hearing on the Luciani Properties LLC application for a special permit for excavation, removal, filling, grading, and processing of earth products related to a residential site development of 114 Luciani Street. Then we will have a work session where we will receive and schedule a public hearing on the application from attorney John Nuff for Angelo Malisi for 804 Fountain Street. And their application is for a special permit for excavation, removal, filling, grading, and processing of earth products related to the multifamily development of that property. Then in the work session, we may discuss and take action on tonight's public hearing. Those are the only agenda items for our special agenda meeting tonight, so no other business, no approval of minutes. That's it. All right. So let's start with our public hearing for 114 Luciani Street. That is first up, and it is their application for a special permit for excavation, removal, filling, grading, and processing related to the residential development of 114 Luciani. Who would like to go for the applicant? Thank you. Yes, please. Hello, Mr. Iwasowitz, thank you. Once you sign in, please feel free to give us an overview of your application.
This is, a continued effort to finish the site work for the is this on?
Is the red light on?
Yes.
Yeah, you need to bring it, I think, closer to you. Yeah.
All right, very good. So it's to continue the process of constructing a two-family dwelling, which the permit has been pulled. The time had expired from the previous application, so we're here renewing the request to continue so we could finish the mass excavation.
Anything further you'd like to share before I turn it to the commission members for questions?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. So now I'd like to open up to members of the TPZ to ask questions of the applicant, if you have any.
Thanks for coming, Mr. Waskowitz. I think a question probably on a lot of people's minds is what you think the general time frame of this work will be.
Well, I would hope that maybe you allow us to truck on Saturdays, which would probably expedite the process. It's the busy season again, so during the week, the state of Connecticut, I think, especially with the elections coming up, there's a lot of work out there for these truckers. So usually they're available on the weekends to help on our smaller projects. Other than that, again, we should have been able to finish blasting last time, but we weren't able to. So again, with this permit, we'll be able to plan appropriately and move the material out as fast as possible.
And what was the delay with blasting?
Well, we had construction permits, but the fire marshal, for some reason, chose, even though we drilled and were ready to blast, to not grant the blasting because he was trying to say it was linked to this permit, but we had building permits in place at the time. So anyways, but that's neither here nor there. There's several neighbors that are very upset about certain things, that harass us, threaten us. And so I just document that, and I just like to put it in the record. And other than that, we just like to, move on as our right to finish building these properties.
Is there more excavation and/or blasting that needs to be done on the 110 lot?
Well, for the sewer connection, it may be, and the water connections. So again, blasting and excavating is a typical thing. We also hammer. But again, we're here because of the excess material we have to bring out. And then as the one thing too is we got to bring material in, topsoil, right, because it's all ledge. And that's what this permit is for, to take out the excess and then bring in, and then typically we would never have to get this permit, but because of the mass amount of material, the town requires us to apply for this special permit.
Can I ask just a follow-up question? Because I know there are two properties. There's 110 Luciani Street and 114 Luciani Street. And I just want to be crystal clear that your application tonight is for excavation, removal, fill, grading, processing for 114 Luciani Street only.
Yes.
So anything you would be doing on 110 Luciani would be under the building permit and
Yes.
not under this excavation?
Yes, but we will probably, come in when we're ready to bring in material to, because I believe that is required. You guys could clarify. We will do a separate application at that time. But right now, we have enough space to do what we have to do, enough material to backfill, and then we'll figure out exactly how much other soil, to do the topsoil we need to bring in, and we'd come in with a separate application. If that's required. We have a building permit in place there now.
Had any of the material been removed back in the spring?
Only material removed was during the permit process, and everything stopped since.
When was the permit, your first permit issued? How long ago was that issued?
I don't know, a few years ago.
So it's been a number of years since.
But the total amount of time worked there is maybe, they know better than me, but 2 months of actual working on the site.
In your application, you mentioned about the 4,000 cubic yards of material you have to remove, and you mentioned several places you might be able to bring it, but do you have adequate places to bring the material? It's not clear from your application if places are willing to accept 4,000 yards of material.
Yeah, that is a problem that we have and that we're addressing, but that's not part of the application.
Yeah, but
If I could follow up on that, it's of concern to us, though, because one of the challenges you had, so I did go back in the record recognizing that this has been going on for a while. You originally were granted a permit in May 1st, 2023 for both properties that expired in May 1st, 2024, and that was then granted a one-year extension to May 1st, 2025. So I think that's why we're now in this post-expiration of the permits. One of the main reasons that you offered during the course of that time was your challenge in finding places to dispose of the material, and you were going through a lengthy approval process, I believe in the town of Prospect, where you were trying to find a location. Can you give us more detail on your plans for the removal?
So a lot of towns, and that's good that you brought up Prospect, we bought the property, they allowed us to bring in material, and since have not issued us a permit, have not given us a cease and desist. They just are, we're stuck in no man's land in Prospect. So we didn't do anything wrong, but somehow, as people are on vacation, people are sick, we have the Mylars, everything filed, and I was hoping by this meeting we'd have the permit in place. The difference in Prospect is, once they issue me the permit, their mass excavation is included and stays with the permit. Whereas here, the town rules are different, that I have to get a separate, the building permit does not cover the mass excavation permit. So I was hoping to say that, yes, Prospect is ready for us to go there, but there's a good example of that. We did everything right, we filed all the paperwork, but still yet we don't have a permit. And you could call there and ask, but I was hoping to get it today. The person in charge of that permit, wetlands, is on vacation for 2 weeks. It's just things out of my control that since COVID, nothing is easy, right? And every town has their own regulations, and we're stuck in between. But I believe, yes, we do have at the moment places where we could bring it. Now, if permitting is required, again, like Prospect is going on 6 months, I believe, and I don't know what to do. We're just following the rules.
I have a question, just going back to the original application when you came in, and I know Chris talked about that it was a merged lot, and your plans were to create 2 lots from the one merged lot. So we had one big merged lot, and that was going to be divided. And I guess this is like just kind of confusion I have from the last time as to, is it 110, is it 114? At what point did we approve a subdivision of the merged lot?
It was prior to us purchasing it. It was 2 lots. Then, before we purchased, was converted to 1 lot, and then we, as of right, put it back to 2 lots. It just meets zoning requirements. So that's why we're allowed to have 2 lots. The other gentleman merged it so he didn't have to pay taxes on 2 lots. So we have 2 lots now, 110 and 114.
So, okay, I just need to understand that process. So we had a merged lot.
So the original lots were created prior to subdivision. So then they got merged, and then
Right.
this is, because it was created prior to subdivision, you don't count that creation. So you count subdivision from when your subdivision regs started, which is 1953. So after that point, as long as it got merged, and then this is the first split of it being pulled apart again. Does that make sense? So if you
Because I
take
thought it
something
was-
and you break it into 3 pieces,
Right.
that's a subdivision. These pieces existed prior to the subdivision regs. So somebody merged them, and now they're breaking them apart into 2 pieces. So it didn't require your subdivision.
So the original subdivision of that area
Antedated the
was
zone-
before
your subdivision regs.
regulations?
Yeah. And that's when you count from when it has to come back in.
So you could have a merge, so you can administratively divide it into 2 lots again.
Right, because it's not dividing it into 3 or more, yes.
Okay.
And they're compliant in terms of size and whatnot.
Other questions?
Yeah, on the timeline, so, and I don't remember where we were when you were last here, but I know that the folks who live in the neighborhood were unhappy about a number of things, including that the timeline seemed on the open-ended side, whether it was in your control or out of your control. But I think, if I were living in that neighborhood, I definitely want to know something more definitive about, we're going to blast for this time period, and then we're going to truck and haul for this time period. Can you be more specific?
But we did. So last time, everything you imposed on us, we did. We trucked from 8 to 5, only during weekdays, no weekends. But now with a building permit on 110, we could work weekends. Even we have a building permit on 114, but we're following the rules. We're not trying to circumvent any rules. The problem is that, again, Prospect's taking way too long. Other issues, personal issues. The neighbors, they cut their grass, they build their things. They don't ask me So I don't feel, I think one misconnection here is I'm here subject to whatever the rules are of this board. And people want to know my personal business practices. And honestly, I wish I was done with the construction here. But circumstance as it is, this is where we are. So it's very frustrating when I know we don't make noise, they complain. If we do make noise, they complain. They're just not happy people. And they come every day. My son and myself is very nice to them, right? But for some reason, they're upset. I don't know why, and we'll be finished, but we're here per the rules. We have to be here so we can finish.
So, in the most optimistic case, how long will it take? Everything goes great.
Well,
Prospect opens tomorrow.
With the moving of the material, 2 to 3 months. With the construction, it's going to take a little bit of time. Probably a year, maybe. And again, if we don't decide to start building the second house, even though it's ready, it's market conditions. There's a lot of things. So as a business person, if we can, we'd like to do it now. But if everything doesn't fall into place and it's not monetarily correct for us, then we have the right to do this or do that. I don't know. I don't ask what you guys do for a living, right? This is not a town contract. I'm not beholden to the town. So I'm just trying to do my right with the property I purchased. And I'm here following the rules. And we followed the rules, everything you imposed on us. And then the question was, well, why didn't I come in for Saturday? Because I wish I would have, if I known, I would have asked to come in for Saturday. That would have made a difference back then. But, we're here again.
So if everything goes perfectly, you've got 3 months to remove material and at least a year to build the house.
No, I have 5 years to build a house from the
No, I
issuance
said
of
if
the
everything,
permit.
so you just said that's what you said, it's 3 months to remove material and another, I think you said, I don't know, maybe a year to build the
3 to 4 months
house.
to move material, right? Maybe we're going to be pouring concrete next week on 110, which is independent of 140, right? So we build the walls, we backfill, then I'm going to come in for 110 and say, listen, I need this amount of material for the topsoil, right? Because I'm going to have to do that. 114, hopefully all the fill like 110 is. The fill is out of the way, right? We're going to take it out, right? And then we place the foundation if market conditions are the same. That's what I'm saying is this application does not require a business plan. I'm here in good faith, and I'm going to try to finish. If anything else is outside my control, and I don't know how to answer these questions that are about my business or what I'm going to do.
And what happens if you don't get the permit tonight?
Well, I think we have a big problem because I've been issued permits. We invested a lot of money and time, and again, I don't see why I wouldn't.
I was just wondering, so you purchased the property in Prospect to move the...
Yeah, to try to help expedite
Yeah.
things.
So
But
do you-
little beknownst to me, it's turning into harder than it should be, but at the same time, it's another issue that's mine personally, not this commission's.
Do you feel that Prospect property can take all these 4,000 yards?
It's not going to take all of it, but it'll probably take half of it, right? And then I have other locations that I believe are going to take the rest. And then I may have to apply for permits because each town is different. Sometimes towns it's 500 yards, some towns it's 200 yards, some towns it's 1,000 yards, right? So, again, I'm here in good faith, answering questions.
So,
May I?
sure.
No.
No, go ahead.
So in good faith, I'm asking my questions as well, so thank you for coming out. I am a commercial banker, I'm not an attorney, so sometimes I speak over people and don't know all the guidelines correctly. So, most of the people that I work with, they have a time frame, like a business plan, and they'll say, this is gonna happen in 3 months, this is gonna happen in 2 months. And a lot of times, it doesn't work out because it rains or something happens or the team crew doesn't show up. But then you can adjust a plan that you can show people and in good faith, present to people that will sort of show what you're gonna do. When you're here, what you say is so fungible, it's hard to pin you down on something. You just do it 2 lots, it's not that big of a deal. You should be able to move in and get it. Can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you should be able to go in and just get it done, have a plan, and then say, well, I'm sorry, this didn't work out, and then stick back to it. There's town guidelines, which we're all going to follow, including me, but again, I'm not an attorney. But I finance a lot of big projects. It's just not that hard.
Well, we bought these as infill, so that means when it's convenient to us, we work on it. That's part that, like, do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
If I got nothing better to do, I go work on this.
I do.
When I got something better to do, that makes me more money.
But people living
You
next to
understand
where
that
you
too,
do
right?
that, you're making
Yeah,
it hard for them.
But I'm not making it hard. It just happens to be my profession. I get this all the time, not in my backyard. And I guarantee you, every single one of them have zoning violations.
No one on that street is
But-
bothered that you're building something nice to make the street really nice with 2 nice houses. It'll look really good. They just don't want it to be here 5 years from now doing the
Yeah,
same
but
thing.
say again, I decide I'm not building. There's
Yes.
gonna be somebody else that's gonna come and build it. And that's the frustrating part, is we've been 2-3 months tops there. Keep it clean, none of our stuff in the street. I got pictures of everybody, all sorts of things. And I have it for a reason, right? When the time comes, if I have to, I'm gonna defend myself. But I'm not gonna be petty, and I express them. They all have zoning violations. They all have decks that are too big and all sorts, and they do it anytime they want, right? And that's the frustrating part. Here, you guys should go after them for their violations, and it's, you know what I mean?
don't
I
think
understand
you
that's
should-
not your job.
I think
so
you're not
it's-
taking a good approach.
I'm sorry?
You're not taking a good approach.
No, it's my business plan. Yours is different.
Mr. Chairman,
Right.
back to you, please.
I got a couple of questions. So, Mr. Waskowitz, I think what some of us might be struggling with, what I'm struggling with, is you're kind of characterizing this as, this is my personal business. I'm trying to do my best to answer these questions. I don't understand why you're asking all these questions. You know what the people behind you are going to say to us next.
Well, that's their problem. They have nothing better to do.
Well, I'm not
I wish
sure
they were
it's-
your neighbors.
Well,
You'd realize what I'm talking about.
The thing is,
And
it's our
actually,
problem.
could-
Yeah, please.
We need to tone
I
down
know.
the
I'm
rhetoric,
trying.
please.
I'm sorry.
I mean, we are trying to be very
I know.
straightforward,
I just want us to
professional.
do our jobs. That's it.
So with little less of the color commentary, thank you.
It's, I'm glad that you're here. I'm not, good faith is a strange way to characterize it. You're here because you need to be here. Paul asked you what happens if you don't get the permit, and the answer was we got a lot of trouble.
I don't. All I'm saying, there shouldn't be any trouble, and I shouldn't have to answer the same questions like the third meeting.
I'm not sure. I think
It's
the
the same
questions are
answers,
that
you know?
well that is I think that is the problem, because the question is, can you give us a little bit of a timeline? Can you project out into the future? And the answer is a combination of maybe this, if this falls into place, and also I'm going to come work on it when I feel like it. And I think that's part of the problem.
Have you guys done additions at your houses? Have you ever tried to build a house? It's different. And no matter what you think, and whoever tells you and they guarantee you things, it's variable, especially now with tariffs and all that stuff. So I'm being honest. If we start 110, and that's the plan, we're going to finish 110. 114 will come because it's further behind. If something changes, right, it may not, but we will continue building, in my opinion. And again, I'm just here because, like you said, yes, I have to be, and I was approved before, and and until we finish, the neighbor's getting an addition, right? So somebody might work on these houses later. So it's a circle kind of thing, and I'll answer the questions, but it's always going to be the same. I cannot 100% say a timeline. I can't. Scheduling, trucks availability, all sorts of things.
So, if you don't mind, can I? Please. I'd like to follow up on that, and Paul's question about the timeline is actually critical, because I believe in our decision on your application, normally we grant them for 1 year, but we don't have to. So section 3.3 N8B says we can grant a permit for a year, or specifically grant it for a shorter period of time. So you've now said that it should take you about 3 to 4 months to do the actual last work. And I'm only talking about the excavation work. We're not talking about the building permit. The building permits you have those for a set period of time according to our rules that are actually not governed by our commission. But what if we granted it for 6 months? What if we granted this extension just for 6 months, which is to give you twice what you think would be a reasonable amount of time to do this work, and that's it. And then that will be then on you to get it done in that amount of time, instead of having this be a project that you just let sort of hang out in the ether for a full year.
I have no problem with that. But even in the event I don't finish in 6 months, I would be back here. So just being honest. I really want to get it done, right? And I hope I could do it in 2 months. And if we get it done in 6 months, I won't be here. But I will be back for 110 because of the rules. I mean, it's just the way the rules are.
For 110, you will eventually be back for the bringing of new fill, new to start a lawn. And,
Yeah,
yes.
but it's just subject to your rules.
You know, if you were back in 6 months and you understand, the questions would be highly similar to what they are tonight, right?
And the answers will be exact.
Yeah, and that's the problem, sir. That's the problem. You know,
If Toll Brothers went bankrupt and they shut the project down, right? It just happens that there's no neighbors there complaining, right? It's the same. They go bankrupt. People go bankrupt. Things happen. So I just want you guys to understand this is what I do for a living, and it's difficult always to be questioned. You know, that's all.
Sure. You should understand our position as
Yeah.
well, which is, you know, we're here to serve the people of the town.
I know.
And, you know, the complaints have been, you know, quite frequent and quite distressed. And I don't think there's something special about the people on that street that makes them unusually, you know, prone to complain. This isn't a bit of an unusual situation, which is part of the reason we're asking all these questions.
I appreciate it.
I have a specific question on your rock removal plan, because you talk about having other sites that you could potentially bring the rock to, that you could take the material to sites that may require a special permit from the town. This process can take several months. Is there any reason why you just can't get a special permit now for that, so you have like these different sites lined up, so that's not a reason to delay the process anymore?
Prospect is a good example. I've done it. I went out of my way, I bought the property, and I did the application. They allowed us initially to truck, and I could get a lawyer, I could do all sorts of things. It just, I go there, I try to be every day, and it's not going anywhere. It's just, I wish it was so simple.
How many truckloads were delivered to the Prospect site already in the spring?
3,000 yards.
And
Still
that
have
was
4,000.
pending a permit that you've not yet received.
Well, they allowed me, the strange thing was, they allowed me to start trucking. We went through all the stuff, and then the wetlands, our architect drew a doodle of a tree line. And they said that they want the easement to the tree line, a conservation easement to the tree line, which we thought to the tree line of the wetlands. But they said, no, we want the doodle tree line. But they allowed us to cut, this is real. They allowed us to cut the trees the way we intended. And then after the fact, they let us move the material. They said, well, the easement, we want it not on the wetlands, we want it on that doodle that depicted the tree line. It was just out of thin, I can't make this stuff up, so.
The first selectman asked us a few months ago whether we could think of any creative uses for this material that you need to remove. And you may not have that answer now, but would you think about that? Is there something creative that we could do with this? Could we turn this into a public good for the town? I don't know what you could do with this material.
Well, the town probably could use it. It's great gravel to spread over your parking lots. I mean, I think, the Public Works, if they wanted to, we'd be happy to donate it to wherever they need. So I'd be all for that,
Does it need to be processed further, or is it usable as is?
Well, it's for fill, you could fill anywhere, but it's very easily broken into it's a shale. So it's easily made into chips, But I appreciate that idea. I mean,
Is it marketable?
Well, there's so much, all the development now is this kind of land. That's all that's left. And, you know, you're going to see it, you know, there's wetlands, which is difficult to deal with. Rock now with equipment and blasting is easy. So the market is flooded, you know. So if I had another project, that's why I bought a, you know, I bring it to my projects easier. I'm in control of that. So.
Other questions from commission members?
So you say you already removed 3,000 yards from this, this site, and you have another 4,000 to remove, is that?
Well, I think originally we said 8 to 10,000 yards was going to
Yeah.
come out. And then we're bringing stuff back, so, you know, it's not just removal, it's,
Do you think that these other sites, besides your Prospect property, they can accommodate this additional amount?
yeah,
Is it-
that's not a lot. I mean, you know, there's sites take 100,000 yards, but just in this area, I was hoping, there's no developments, right? Nobody's doing any subdivisions in town right now. You know, if there was building, they take it for the driveways and, you know, it's proximity. But right now in Woodbridge, there's really nothing going on.
And just to be clear, the majority of the 3,000 yards, that initial amount was from 110? Because your excavation work is done at 110? Or was it a mix of both?
Well, it was,
I'm just
at that
curious.
time, that was one piece, so the estimate was based on both. And so now it's like half done, half to go. But the majority, like if we blasted that one more time, that'd probably be the last time for the mass, right? Because it's one corner left there. And then the rest would just be trenching eventually, you know, for the water and sewer lines. But now we just got to move it. So that's the good part. It's all loose. You know, it's just finding the place and moving it. And like I said, I expect in 2 weeks when she comes back that we will have the permit in Prospect, you know.
And I want to, I know you mentioned earlier the question about Saturdays. Saturdays is something that came up during the course of the prior permit. Tell us or talk to us about why Saturdays, and are you formally asking us to grant you the ability to work on Saturdays or not, and if so, why?
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, the state of Connecticut, all the towns are ramped up with all sorts of projects. So all the trucks are delivering asphalt and all that stuff during the day and during the week. On the weekends, those jobs are shut down. All the excess trucks are available on the weekends, especially this time of year. In the winter, it was different. We were able to get to 8, 10. We had 14 trucks there, I think, one day, and we moved a lot of material. So Saturdays would give us that opportunity to be able to get a mass, 20 trucks if we had to, and be able to move more material versus not getting trucks or 1 or 2 trucks, and it just takes forever.
How much material fits in the truck?
Depends if it's wet, 15 to 18 yards, because it's by weight.
Additional questions from commission members? Anyone? No? Okay, thank you, Mr. Waskowitz.
Thank you,
for the
everybody.
presentation. Chris, have we received any written comments before I get to our public comment?
I gave you one this evening that was an email from the first selectman.
Is that on our,
Yeah, we got that.
I believe I handed it out to
Yeah, we
everybody.
got that.
oh, thank you. Were there any other written comments
No.
submitted by the public?
No.
Okay, so folks, we will receive this email from the first selectman dated August 4th, 2025 regarding 110 and 114 Luciani Street as part of our record. All right, our next step is for the public comment portion of our public hearing. So this public hearing is for the purpose of listening to your comments. Each of our members of the public who wishes to do so will have up to 3 minutes to offer your brief statements into the record. Note that TPC members and the applicants will not be answering your questions that you may raise, but your public statements and your written comments that were submitted or may be submitted tonight to the town will become part of the public record for the TPC's consideration of this application. As a reminder to everyone, off-the-record communication with a member of the commission on the merits of this application is prohibited. And I ask folks to keep their comments brief and focused on the proposed special exception permit and avoid unreasonable repetition so we can hear all the concerns that you and your neighbors may have. So I ask when folks come up that they come up one at a time, sign in on the sign-in sheet, introduce yourselves, and at that point I'll start my 3-minute timer. But we have plenty of time tonight to get to everyone's comments.
Good evening. My name's Michael Stowe. I'm on 8 Justin Road, which corners Ariel, which is basically across the street from a property where he's been working right behind that hill, if you look at your maps. I've been swinging a hammer for 50 years, so I know what he's going through. It's not an easy thing to build, dealing with what we have to deal with, but that's our job. That's what we do. And we make the best of it. We do time frames, and I have to tell people we will be done at this point in time. I will make it happen. I've been on medical grade facilities where my fines were $10,000 a day if I wasn't done at that specific time. Most of the stuff is going over tonight. I'm sitting here now. I'm looking at your water because it looks very good to me because in 6 weeks we haven't had to drink the water, any water at our house on 8 Justin Road. Well was never inspected. No one ever approached us. I contacted the DEP, which said we were within a 500-foot sweep. We should have been notified, and someone should have checked to see if we had a well. We're the only street with the only house with a well on Justin. So as of that, we're going back 10 weeks since our first lab reports came in. We had to leave the house for 2 weeks, not even successfully. We came back to the house, and then due to illnesses, we left the house again. We came back now. I've got filters turning black within 2.5 hours. They're so mudded up. I had to have my well pump pulled out. It was totally, wouldn't even produce any water for the house any longer. That's the point we're at now. When he said I have to blast again, I'm just ready to pack my bags because I don't know what we're going to do at this point. I've had to call Regional Water, which our house hasn't been connected because it's a 100-year-old house. It's got a stone wall in front of it that was built, 100 years ago. And he's saying I got to remove a stone wall. I had to get advanced paving, to give us an idea what they thought. And they said we have to take a wall down, go across the street, cut the road, patch the road, just to get public water back, to your house again without going through this, or putting a system in place and have to realize that we're going to have a problem a year out. And we can't even put water softeners in because at that point we cannot discharge the water out of the softeners on the property. It would have to go into a dry well when our septic system's on that side of the property, so that's not possible. So at this point, we're in a tough spot. I'm not blaming anybody. Stuff happens, but I need answers at this point. I don't need promises or when it's going to happen. We need help on this. I've contacted him, contacted the blaster. We've had dates come out when the blasting company had monitor. People came out, and I believe they started blasting in April, and he himself came in, the monitoring company, and seen the damages that were done at that point. It took them 6 weeks to get back to us at all with anything, and I finally got another insurance company, different from the first one, that contacted us, and we're still waiting for them to come back. In the meantime, we got mud in our toilets. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your public comment. Do you want? Thank you. Make sure that Chris gets a copy. Chris needs to.
Thank you. Rosalie Rowland, 102 Luciani Road. I've been following
And
this along.
Rosalie, can you please sign in, just make sure?
Okay, I
Thank
will.
you. Take your time.
Okay, so, and I might talk a little over 3 minutes, and I really don't care because he hasn't followed any of the rules. The, one thing he's saying that he trucked the stuff out, yeah, on a holiday, and that was after November 4th meeting in 2024, when he disrespected all of you. You had to finally put a stop to it. It's none of your business, everything like that. It was a terrible meeting. I didn't think anybody should act like that. But here's my letter. The TBZ Commission was presented with a very incomplete application. First renewal of the special permit for excavation of 114. As this application had many errors, even members of the commission found it confusing. And the application read Luciani Properties LLC submitted listed 110, lots 50 and 60. Now Christine claims that he never started 114. Application 225.5. If the application is incomplete, it should be considered insufficient grounds for denial and later resubmitted. Mr. Derrick admitted he had started 114 Luciani at a meeting on November 4th, 2024, that he is far enough back on 114 and probably not going to go back anymore. Then he goes on, Luciani property, then Lucy on 495-50, Luciani Properties quit claimed the 110 Luciani Street. No permit should be transferred by the applicant unless approved by the TPZ. And all the backup that I had given you is right here. Okay, so it's not that I'm making it up. So it should not have been quitclaimed. This property was quitclaimed on September 5th, 2024 from Luciani Properties for the sum of $1 to Connecticut Housing Restoration. But throughout the last few years, it always mentioned Luciani Properties LLC, and that is wrong. Under the Woodbridge Code, no permit shall be transferable unless the TPZ approves it. And then Derek goes on to say, and I want everybody to notice, there's a notice of federal lien of $57,000. Is the TPZ aware of this? That is why he cannot put anything in his name. It goes under all these other companies. TPZ approved the May 15, 2023 Luciani Properties first special permit for 2 residential houses, lots 15 and 16, despite the neighbors' objections. You people approved it because you probably honestly thought that he was going to clear the property and build 2 lovely houses, okay? His intentions is not like that. And another thing, we should not be worrying about how the economy is. Toll Brothers doesn't come running to you, and all the other contractors don't come running to you and say, oh, the economy's not good, or I have another job, so I'm leaving Luciani. That's not how things go. Because I had worked for Turner Construction for years. You plan everything. You plan everything, and you have, in case there's a problem, you have another alternative. You just don't go aimlessly. EBC, okay, and we heard drilling, we heard hammer drilling for 2 years under Mr. Vizzo, and now we've heard 2+ years, and he was not supposed to do any work on that site after May 1st of this year, and I have pictures of documentation that they were on it. And you know when they come? They come at 3:30 in the afternoon. He sends his son, comes at 3:30, when all the officers are ready to close, and he'll work. That's wrong. This commission, under the chair of Robert Glee, made changes to the zoning regulations 2 years after you approved the applicant for the construction of 2 family homes on 15 and 16. And
And I will ask you to wrap up or
Okay,
summarize
well, I've
as
got to
well.
finish. In 2 single-family homes. This has never been approved, what you just changed. The commission originally approved a special excavation permit to construct 2 single families. Has the TPZ commission considered that each 2-family residence is going to have 4 cars? Where are they going to park? On a hill that your car could roll? They can't park on the cul-de-sac because a fire apparatus, ambulance, any emergency cannot get there. And then the homes that are on the other side cannot get out of their driveways. They're even having trouble now. We are certain you will give this application your approval because you've done everything for this man and nothing for the neighborhood. You should read what you were supposed to do. Protect the neighborhood, the integrity of the neighborhood. Holding these in there. Now, if you give him the permit, you have to give him stipulations. This has to be completed in 4 months. This has to be, he has to have a direction because he has none. And he said in the beginning, he knew exactly what he was doing and he's great at this and this is his livelihood. Well, I wouldn't hire him. In
So
my opinion.
I'll ask you to wrap up, please.
Okay. But he can go on and he can destroy our neighborhood, and that's fine. And every time we wanted to talk, we couldn't talk, okay? The residents simply want the site finished, cleaned up. If you want to put the house, fine. But how is the apparatus for the fire going to come? Through Ariel Road? You better think of all this. When it snows, where are these people going to park? You can't park on the street. You have all this, and even where he says, and he's so belligerent to this committee in November 4th, and you allowed his attitude to show on TV. It was disgusting. Now, here's how he did this. And he shouldn't have been working on a holiday. He lines up his trucks. You also put a stipulation they can't work in the school. They can't work after the permit expires. Okay? Here he is working, and this man's house is up here. And then I complained once about the Porto John, the point that everybody could see when they moved in. Well, now it's on the street.
Can we submit all of these to Chris? Do you have electronic versions
And
to send to her
Do
as
you know
well?
about the oil leak?
All of these can be submitted, but they have to
She
be,
hasn't, because I pulled them up. And you're toting material that could possibly be contaminated to Prospect. Great. Woodbridge is right up there. It should be investigated.
thank you very much for your comments.
And he stated that he already worked on 114. Here it is with this picture.
Thank you. And please sign in, and if you could state your name for the record when you're ready, and then we'll begin.
Hi, I'm Kyle Stevens from 15 Ariel Road. I'm going to keep mine a little short and sweet. I was here back during the initial one in May of 2023. My comments at the time, specifically being the property where I'm at the top of the hill, was about the fence. Right now there is a orange fence that's been there for quite some time. At the time I didn't have any kids, and now I have a 2-year-old. Anyone here who has a 2-year-old knows they are kind of anywhere, and I don't really want a 40-foot cliff of my kid running off a fence into this thing. I don't think it's going to stop much right now. It's just kind of there. Really, that's my biggest concern. I think anyone would agree that it's a pretty big safety concern at this point, being that, I mean, whatever it may be, kids, people, wildlife, whatever it is. Time frame's really just been another concern, being that I'm the property right there. Obviously, I hear everything. I'm not here to stop anyone from doing what they want to do on their property, but I think it's a completely fair point that we're all here and bringing up points saying that it has been now over 2 years. That claim about 2 months worth of work it's frankly just wrong. It has not been 2 months of work in that time. There's been a lot more than that. I think a timeline that's a little more specific, or something that we can at least kind of follow along to know like what's going on, rather than just one day waking up and realizing that we're going to be hammering today or blasting, is at this point I would expect it, but I could know you guys only have so much what you can do. So here I am just asking that we get a better timeline. That safety fence a much bigger priority at this point, being that it's been so long, and who knows how much longer we have to go with everything. And that's where I'm going to say with my time. Thank you.
One question, Mr. Stevens.
Sorry,
Yes.
we don't ask.
Okay. Off with you, sir.
Thank you very much for your public comment.
My name is Barry Lebenz. I live at 106 Luciani, 2 properties over from the site. And I actually really just take a little bit of umbrage with the characterization of like neighborhoods as being unhappy. It's actually a really nice neighborhood where my wife and I are extremely happy to now have an 8-month-old daughter. And we see kids walking, and you see everybody on the block walking up and down every night, every day, every morning, saying hello to each other. And that's one of the things we are extremely excited about. We didn't complain when the blasting occurred on a day that we didn't know, and all of a sudden our house shook and our dog freaked out. And, you know, you have to start like dealing with, is everything off of where it should be, that nothing breaks? We haven't complained once about it. And there's actually nothing we would like to see, to see more than this property completed. For what it's worth about the not in my backyard thing, this is a little bit of a tangent. I actually run a brewery, and we make a beer called Yes in My Backyard. So I don't think you actually have a good understanding of the neighbors. But the biggest thing is being able to know when and how this gets done, right? Where give permits, get it done, but he should be held, or there should be some sort of shorter permits where things have to be accomplished, and then goals set and met. And I don't know what recourse there can be, right? I'm not asking for people to get in trouble. I just want to find a way to get this done expeditiously for the whole neighborhood, for you guys, you all. It's a lot of time and energy to go through these things. And I want my daughter to be able to go up and down the street and not have to worry about the pit. It frankly feels like a Parks and Recreation episode, you know, like there's this large pit, large mound of shale at the end of the road. Water comes out and drips down the whole street, and I have an algae pool in my front yard because of it. I'm not saying that's just because of them, whatever it might be, but you know, none of that is the point. The point is, what are the mechanisms that can be done to put short leashes on tangible goals with timelines that can be met, and this thing can get built. Because I think for everybody, the like when I get to it is, at this point, doesn't feel like a viable solution for the community. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment.
So my name's Wei Liu.
Can you bring it closer to you? Thank you.
My name's Wei Liu. I live in 111 Luciani. It's right across the construction site. So the noise is really, the hammering, just unbearable. You cannot stay in my home, for 15 minutes. When they start, I have to leave. I have some health problem, but no matter what, I couldn't stay home. It's very painful. The first permit, they said they just used 2 to 4 months. Right now, more than 2 years. Just too much. I just can't stand this anymore. So their request to do the Saturday, I only have 2 weekend days peaceful. I can't believe if you guys approve this. We cannot survive there. Just too much. And the day when they blasting, I noticed my basement was leaking. So I asked them to come over. They said, we cannot change. The schedule's on. So they're still blasting. So I definitely think, it's related to the blasting. My basement is leaking. A lot of things, just too much for me. It's not we are mean. You guys just go there, stay there, listen to them, to see how long you guys can stand. So I was surprised. They apply 114, the permit. They're still doing there. You can take a look. 114, 110, everywhere. The lot already do the excavation. Why they need it again? I just don't understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Dwight Rowland. I live at 102 Luciani. You can understand how frustrated this whole process has been. Not only with the first applicant, Vizzo, who was there for 2 years, but now with this applicant today. 2 years. I've been in the construction business for over 45 years. I cannot believe it takes 2 years, and he's not even complete with the excavation of the site. Thing is, he's not there all the time. Nobody's holding his feet to the fire. He can do literally almost anything he wants, and he'll be back. If you give him 6 months, I guarantee you, he's going to be back in 6 months asking for an extension, because he has to plan. He hasn't planned anything accordingly. He should have at least one house completed and then the other house going on in a 2-year period. It is frustrating. You have to put timelines. We have to get that. It's an embarrassment when you drive down the street and you look at that property, and it's been like that for months. And if you lived if you had that in your neighborhood, you'd be up here complaining about it too. It's not fair to all the residents down in that area, especially the kids and all that, because on the weekends, kids are up and down the street, and as Barry was saying, a lot of young kids, and they take carriages and they walk the kids up and down the street. There are a lot of kids now in the neighborhood, which is great to see. But we just have to put some guidelines or some stipulations on this, and that there has to be repercussions if he doesn't do it. Because we can't, because if not, we're going to be back here in another 6 months talking about it. And it's really not fair to a lot of the residents here in the thing. I've worked on many construction sites, but this is one that's just been poorly managed. When I say poorly managed, he hasn't planned anything, so. Just want to let you know.
Thank you for your comments. Are there other members of the public who would like to make a public comment tonight? Are there other members of the public who would like to make a public comment tonight? And I'll ask, as is my tradition, a third time, any members of the public who would like to make a public comment? So hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the application for a special exception permit. Close the public hearing.
Second.
Public hearing.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to close the public hearing? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So thank you. The public hearing is now closed. I'd like to thank Chris for helping us manage our public hearing. I'd like to thank the commission members for being good listeners in the process. I look forward to our deliberations during the work session. I want to thank the applicant for your presentation, and I want to thank the public for your participation in this process tonight and through your submission of written materials as well, all of which will go into our record. So thank you very much to all who have participated. So next I'll transition us to our work session, where the first item on our work session agenda.
So, Mr. Chairman, as listed in the minutes, the
agenda.
Yeah, I'm sorry. In the agenda, it's the 804 Fountain Street property comes first.
Yes.
Would it be appropriate to consider the 114 Luciani Street, just given the interest of the people gathered here?
We could, but the 804 is going to be a quick one.
Okay.
I anticipate so the 804 is just, we have received an application for a special permit for excavation, removal, filling, and grading of earth products at their multifamily development. That needs a public hearing. The proposal is to schedule that public hearing to continue to happen at the time of the upcoming public hearing at our next regular meeting, which is September 2nd at 6:30. So unless there are any objections to scheduling that excavation fill special exception permit along with the rest of what's already before us. Question?
Yeah. To follow up from what I commented on already, I'm confused. Is this normal process to have a public hearing before the plan has been approved? I feel like it's, so there's.
You have to,
Insofar as substance is being discussed, I'm in the.
He has to recuse, so he'll step out. So for the overall proposal.
It should have been submitted at the time the
Yeah.
original one was. When you had the toll brothers application that came in, you got, I think, almost 4 or 5 applications in at once. You had the special permits for the use, you had the site plan, you had excavation, and you had sediment and erosion control certification. So it's typical that it comes in. Apparently, they've discovered that they need this. So it's a matter of getting it in there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's up to you guys.
So this is being made a part, is it being attached to the current application or is
It's
it?
its own application.
Okay.
But
Just be patient with me.
Yeah,
But-
no, I'm just
So
saying.
I
Chris-
just, hold on. I just need a little patience. So you could conceivably pass one if this particular application didn't pass, but the other one did, they could excavate it?
No. You need all the approvals that you need to do the work. But part of doing the work is needing an approval for this.
And so it's okay that they go simultaneous?
Yes, so it's
Yeah.
Okay.
traditionally,
Okay, I'm just
so
learning.
traditionally they would have had this.
So it's an oversight. Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying, Chris?
Yeah.
And So for me, it just catches up with the other pending applications and allows them all to be considered together at one time.
As has been done in the past. You don't recall, this is not a precedent, this has happened in the past, or it has never happened in the past, where the application got separated from the excavation permit?
I've seen them come in together. The most recent one you've seen come in together was...
Toll Brothers.
No, Lunar Drive, where you had the two lots at the end of Lunar, and you had a site plan that came in, and you had a special exception excavation permit at the same time. But they came in at the same time. And in this case, for whatever reason,
Yeah.
they didn't recognize, didn't submit, I don't know why, this application. But now it's here, and so it's something you have to schedule, and whenever you schedule it for is up to you.
Okay.
So it will be most efficient to schedule it for our next meeting where we're already having a public hearing on their same general activities, which would be my motion to schedule the public hearing for September 2nd, 2025 on this special exception permit for excavation at 804 Fountain. So I've moved.
Second.
And second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of scheduling that public hearing?
Are we seating Commissioner Wisnia for this vote?
Oh, yes. Thank you. You're seated for this vote. So moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So it will be part of our upcoming public hearing. Can someone?
Somebody grab
Okay, grab
Andrew.
Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you for clarifying, Chris. I just wanted to
Yeah.
understand it better. I
Not
didn't-
a problem.
You've been doing this, your experience level's a little higher than mine.
Okay.
Better be really careful with those words over there.
It had nothing to do with duration. It was experience.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, next up is our
No Tootsie Pop for you.
our discussion of the application for a special exception permit for 114 Luciani Street. Initially, I want to make sure that folks have, not everyone has a copy. If there are folks, I have looked through them. I'm happy to pass mine over to someone who
I
hasn't.
am as well.
I went through Bob's during the presentation.
Okay. And then we've also received the additional photos.
Do you want those back?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Let's
those
take
guys-
a look.
So folks can take a moment and look through the package if they haven't had a chance to yet. All right. Paul, let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
So folks, we've received the letters and documents from the hearing as well as the materials that were submitted by the applicant, which include a rock removal plan that I want to make sure we talk a little bit about, as well as folks have the construction documents and the like. I think we can have a bit of general discussion before we get to a formal motion, because I think
helpful.
a formal motion may need some discussion on how it might be crafted if one is to be crafted. So I'm happy to cede the floor with anyone who wants to start with some comments, or I'm happy to start whatever folks.
I just have a couple of questions at the outset. So, Mr. Chairman, you made reference already that we have some discretion with respect to the length of any excavation permit, extension or otherwise. Is there any discretion, Chris, with respect to the length of the building permit, or is that automatically 5 years?
5 years is not the length of a building permit. A building permit is valid for 6 months unless it gets renewed by the building official.
But is the
But as
renewal?
long as, once it's started, in a sense, they keep hammering and putting a nail in or whatever, as long as there's work continuing on it, the permit continues. But it doesn't have a 5-year expiration.
Upon request, it's continued for 6 months at a time, or just upon
As long as
evidence of work going on?
Work has to start typically within 6 months, and then it has to continue once it's started.
At what rate?
As long as there's a nail, what I've heard from the
Like,
building
can you
inspector.
drive a nail at 5
you
months
drive a nail
and
in?
29 days and not drive another nail until,
But I'd have to verify.
in
it
5
with
months,
you.
rather?
That's what I was told by the former building inspector, Terry Gilbertson. Don't know what Bob Dillon, our current inspector, would say, because I haven't asked him the question.
So, Andrew, to sort of jump off on that point, which I think is a very good one, we've heard from a number of the members of the public and from the applicant himself that there is uncertainty about the timeline for any and all of the activities happening. Unfortunately, there are two different permit regimes that are operational here. One is the building permit, which we need to actually perhaps get verified from the building official. So this may not be a decision we can make tonight. So I'm just putting that out there as a possibility of kind of when that started, when that, and how that is sort of kept on timelines and time schedules, because that seems to be something that I've heard loud and clear from the neighborhood that they want to know, is there a beginning, middle, and end to what they have been enduring? And we've heard tonight and for quite some time now that this is a significant impact to the quality of the life of the people living in that neighborhood, the hammering, the removals, the trucking, all those sorts of things. So there,
Is there an open building permit with respect to 110? now?
Yes,
How about with respect to 114?
yes.
Began when? That began when?
I would have to go print them out to tell you when.
so
I honestly don't work in the building department, I work with them. But I know they
Understood.
both exist.
So it's possible 114 would have an open building permit on it, but no right to excavate. Is that correct? That's what would happen?
Under a building permit, there's always the consideration that there will be some form of excavation. If you're doing a new house, you always have to do something to excavate with. So at this point, it's my understanding from the building official that 110 is operating under the building permit that's in place for 110. 114, while it has a building permit in place, any work that took place on it was taking place under your excavation permit, not under the building permit. So it's my understanding that 114 has not yet entered the realm where it would have a minute enough amount of material to be worked that it would fall under the building permit. And your zoning regulations give those amounts of material that can be worked. And it's based on the area of the lot. So a lot that's in a residential A district where the lots are bigger have more material which is allowed to be worked than a lot in this area where the lots are much smaller, and therefore there's a smaller amount of material that can be moved, brought in, removed, that kind of stuff.
And I believe for those who are interested in where that is that in our 3.3N
It's under the excavation section, under exemptions.
Under exemptions, so exemption 2A3 about earth material movement for earth material located within the footprint of a foundation. So again, you're only moving stuff that would be, in essence, digging out a foundation for the installation of such foundation or building or structure for which a building permit has been issued. You're only allowed to move 100 cubic yards for parcels less than 2 acres.
Which is more, as a layperson would see it, more of a building work versus excavation.
Right.
It would go along with the normal building.
Though no, that's like 5 trucks worth, according to
Yeah,
the sort of math. So, and just to be crystal clear, there is no permit, excavation permit that is still operational for 114. So there is nothing that can be happening.
There is nothing that should currently be happening on 114.
Correct. And this is not a continuation or any sort of, he already got his 1-year extension.
This is actually for a new permit. What you have is for a new permit, because you're allowed to give one extension, which you gave in 2024. So this would be a new permit. And as the chair has said, you have discretion for the length period that permit can be for.
So there is discretion on the length of time. There is also the ability, there are a list of minimum standards and conditions that are laid out in our 3.3N, but we can also add our own conditions for approval, as we commonly do, and as we did back in the original sort of approvals, which I pulled, on sort of timing and making sure that any traffic was arranged with the recognizing the avoidance of school bus runs, that he had to minimize noise impact and manage the stormwater flowing through the site, and file a bond. Do we know the status of the bonds that have been filed on this or no?
Well, once the permit's expired, it's expired.
And they've been released. Okay. So, I go back to and apologies, it's the one thing I didn't print out, but this is the rock removal plan for 114. As Bob, you noted, there's going to be removing 4,000 more cubic yards. The estimates in here is about 267 truckloads, so that's a lot of activity. That would be transported out of Luciani Street to Robert Road and then up and out on Litchfield Turnpike. It noted that he identified 2 sites for material at 76 Salem Road and Prospect that has permitting in place. Though we may have learned today that permitting may not be fully, or it was. There's a bit of confusion about the end, sort of where the material is going in the end, which is, again, a big issue and a challenge for any timeline that we want to impose. We want to have a clear place of where the material is going.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the issue is that the applicant is running these 2 locations as a side job. And the applicant is not running these as normal, upgraded type commercial construction project to hurry up and get these done. And the issue, there's a conflict between what the applicant is trying to achieve and the people that live in the neighborhood that have to deal with the results of it. So it keeps kind of going on, where if you live in the neighborhood, you have, you don't know when people are going to show up, what's going to happen with the trucks. And instead of it being an upgraded commercial project for a quick excavation and some building, which would take 6 to 12 months. It's going on into these multi-month sort of situations. So I'm trying to think through whether or not I want to be in favor of this excavation for 114, but if I did, I'd want a monthly report every month from the applicant showing what had been completed and estimated time that the work would get done and when it could get done. And every month that report would have to come in. And I'm telling you, I'm not voting for this one a second time if it comes in and there's nothing done for month after month. Or like he works 2 Saturdays and the worst Saturdays of the month and there's no progress on it. But also listening to people that live on the street, they just want this done. It'll be a more beautiful cul-de-sac with the 2 houses there and all of the work completed. It'll look nice. It'll be a nice street. But it shouldn't be something for these poor neighbors to suffer through like month after month, year after year. So if there's something we could do to sort of move this project from the applicant, from a side job to upgrade the project by some of these requirements, I would be in support of that type of an approach.
I feel that there shouldn't be approval until there are sites identified as to where you're going to be bringing this excess material, because that seems to be where the delays are coming in. And until there's sites identified, and there seems like he could like do some special permitting and get that, revved up. Because I feel the lack of having sites is just kind of an off-ramp for him to come back and say he needs an extension. So I really think it should be, the approval should not take place until he has affirmatively identified, sites where he's going to be bringing this excess material. Because that seems to be where the delay is.
Other reactions to that?
Well, he said that he thought about 2,000 yards to go into his prospect property, but he has to find some other sites for the other 2,000 yards. I agree with you that he really would like to see that there's a place for this material to go, but otherwise it's going to go on forever, really. And I think it is a concern, but I feel he should be able to get some permission from these other sites. He says he's identified some, and he should give us evidence that he has that permission, to put the material there. Then we have a good assurance that it's going to get done.
Other comments and reactions?
I am very sympathetic to the neighbors because if I was living in that neighborhood, I'd be at wit's end. And it sucks. Nobody wants to hear blasting or jackhammering or any other noise that disrupts their right to peacefully live in a house. However, I think postponing this makes it worse on the neighbors. I feel that now at least you've got leaves on trees that buffer some of the noise, and I think if we wait another month or two, because we're going to meet again in early September, I think that hurts the neighbors even more. Like if I were there, I'd want this done ASAP. I think it's incumbent upon us to put stringent stipulations on giving the permit, because so far there's been no consequences. And if I were in that neighborhood, I would either want it done yesterday or cancel the project. I would not live under these conditions.
Yeah,
it's not fair. It's not like living in Manhattan where they're putting up 100-foot skyscrapers. So I believe he's being genuine when he said he's having trouble moving material. I truly believe that. But it's not the neighbor's problem. And I think it's our job to do what we can to take care of the neighborhood.
So both of the preferences that you articulated, Paul, were expressed here tonight. There are people who want it done yesterday, and there are people who would like for this whole thing to just disappear, and I'm sympathetic to both. I think, there are 3 ways forward that I can see. There's the blank check approach, which I don't think anybody's in favor of. There's some sort of time-limited, new permit that we choose to issue here. There's also the option to just say no for now, until some of these pressing questions are answered. these questions have been asked for a couple of years. I mean, it's not the first time that, this gentleman has been asked to provide a timeline, and I think with the absence of a property that can accept the material, which is a huge thing, it's hard to have any confidence that work is going to proceed soon. I think there are more questions than answers, and I think that the uncertainty is a big part of what's eating many of the folks that have spoken to us. I mean, Kathy said she didn't want to vote. I don't mean to put words in Commissioner Hunter's mouth, but it sounds like there's at least one of us who's not interested in moving this forward without clear, concrete answers to some of these very important questions, and I'm getting there. I can't imagine approving anything beyond the end of this calendar year, even if we were to do that tonight. And I'm almost more inclined to say I would like to have clear answers, clear projections, understanding that there's going to be some tolerance, some uncertainty for what could happen to those timeframes. So I'm struggling with what to do next.
So there are those three options. There's probably a procedural sort of question of whether, if we were going down the option of requiring that clear, demonstration that there is an actual outlet, because the outlet for this material has been the thing that has caused it to run into delays. I don't know. Chris, remind me sort of if we require the applicant to submit a supplemental filing, what is the procedure there? Have we opened, there's a few questions there. Is that a procedure in our deliberations? I know we have 65 days from.
You can only act on the material that's present in your hearing record.
Right, so we have to
Absent
reopen.
you making a permit conditioned on receipt of something, otherwise potentially voiding the permit if it's not received within a timely fashion. And there again, I'm certainly not an attorney and I don't want to play one. But we could ask counsel, if that kind of a condition could be added to something. Clearly, you cannot accept any more information into your hearing record. It has to be based on the hearing which you just closed.
Would that require reopening the public hearing? And if so,
You can only done
is there a
that.
procedure for that?
You would have to do it this evening.
Right, so if we reopened the public hearing and continued it, that would give us the opportunity. And if we chose the path of trying to get more information, because we're frankly given a fairly, sparse description of the plan. We learned more today that there's at least some confusion over what sites are actually available for the receipt of this material. So that is a question. You can either reopen the hearing to allow for the receipt of that information before we make a decision, or you can make a decision potentially contingent on the receipt of, at a minimum, the plan for concrete evidence that there is a source and receptor for this material. Now, I would say that at a minimum, because there were other things that I don't want to lose in our discussion, including concerns about the neighbors of the temporary orange fence at the top of the hill, and general concerns of the neighborhood of the lack of transparency on the timing of activities, including when blastings is happening, when trucks are coming, et cetera. This, again, a part of the frustration we've heard over the course of the 2 years, that yes, he may not be operating continuously on those sites for the last 2+ years, but when he does, it's disruptive, and it often comes out of the blue for the neighborhood. So I can envision a requirement that he has to clearly and weekly or monthly post his schedule of activities for activities in the neighborhood as another way to transparently engage with the neighbors on what he is doing and when he is doing it and so they can plan accordingly.
I mean, there's also other alleged violations when they're talking about the transfer of the property and transferring the permit, that's supposed to be approved by TPZ.
That's not true.
That's not true? Okay.
Transfer of the property occurs, okay, the permit, I don't even know where we're getting transfer of permit from. So when you have an application, the application has to be legitimate for who the current owner of the property is and whatnot. A permit shouldn't be transferred from one entity to another, although we have to verify that section in our regs, which I don't have in front of me at the moment. And again, I'm not an attorney, and I'm not going to try to play one because I'm not. It's my understanding that the principals in the Luciani and the principals in the other construction company are the same. Why they got transferred, I have no idea. But they're the same entities. Mr. Owaskowitz is in both. So it's not like it went from me to you or you to me. It's the same person.
Chris, though I would note that's a question probably
But that's
for
a
our
question for town
for
council.
town council on the
And we can
implications
ask
of that transfer. So
Yeah.
again, that gets back to whether that's something we need to have town council weigh in on before we make a decision. I believe so, because it's been raised and
Correct.
presented to us as a question to which we need guidance on. But Paul, I'll come back to, you raised an important dilemma. The challenge here, and I've driven by the site, it's now a big, I was referred to by someone in the member of the public, the big pit that is at the end of the street. And it is this challenge of wanting it to not be a big pit anymore and to actually be its end result, which will be hopefully 2 nice houses at the end of the street. The delays in that are something that, again, I'm sure that, I don't want to speak for the neighbors, that could be just, we did hear some folks that want it just done, and done quickly and as fast as we can. So that brings us to this, do we delay for a month to try to get more information on these key questions that have been raised tonight on the transfer, to see if we are able, as conditions of the permit, to be able to require the permit is only, if we go down the path of a permit that would have a triggers in them, if there is no outlet, then the permit is outlet for the material, the permit is canceled, and then other conditions as we see fit.
But I just think that delay provides like an impetus to keep it on schedule. And I think identifying though, that you do have sites where you can deliver the excess material to is, would help the project stay on schedule. And I think without having that, clearly defined, there's kind of an open end. He always has a reason as to why he could be delayed in this process.
Do we know anything about, so some of the members of the public who spoke tonight referenced a hazard of having the pit in place. Did we receive information about that hazard and attempts to mitigate it as part of this application? So the way I'm reading our regulations, special exceptions, section 6.3 application materials, 3.G, is that the hazard mitigation data needs to be included with that. And that, approving a special exception can be done with the conditions that we set forward pursuant to section 6.3. So I'm wondering, is it within our purview to approve the special exception permit with certain conditions, including hazard mitigation, because I don't want anybody else's 2-year-old, I don't want my 2-year-old or anybody else's falling into the pit.
So I think you've identified in addition to 3.3N, we are also looking at our special exception rules in section 6.3, and it does both lay out what the applicant is supposed to do in submission. I'll note that at least in the rock removal plan, there is a reference to silt fences, safety fences, and temporary fences that are on the site plan as submitted, so we have to open up the site plan to see where those are. And there is, at least from my view, a indication of a 4-foot height chain link fence, at least around the 114 Luciani Road property.
Where's the legend that shows you that?
That's proposed, or it's already there?
Chain link fence, okay.
But that is the type of thing that in our approval of any special exception, we could require that is a condition prior to the commencement of any construction or activities on the site that the fence be in place. Probably ensure that that fence continues all the way across the entire site because there's activities happening across all the sites. But you're right, those are the types of things that are within our purview. Sorry, folks. In the granting of a special exception, if we determine it's appropriate, we could have reasonable conditions and safeguards that relate to the factors that are in 6.3C, which is about health, safety, and welfare of the public and the immediate neighborhood, the nature and intensity of the proposed use and any operations involved there, the safety and intensity of traffic, the scale of the proposed site and the structures, et cetera. So those are, to my reading, well within the list of the thresholds of why you would grant a special exception. You can impose conditions that are addressing any of those 7 enumerated items, although we're not limited to those. So I will take that back. So that at least 7 enumerated items and then other things we want to give consideration to in the approval of the special exception. But this gets back to our procedure. Is it better to reopen the public hearing and require the submission of additional information in the public hearing setting, which would then allow the public also to react to those submitted materials, grant another opportunity for the public to speak? Or is it, the other option is to, if we were inclined to do so, we would have to craft a proposed approval, I'll use that word in air quotes, of the special exception for review by our attorney to see if any conditions that we're imposing pass muster from the town attorney. So to me, those seem to be the two paths. We either open it up to try to get we need to have in the record the demonstrated outlet for this and not just I'm going to try to do, we've heard that story for 2 years, that I'm going to try to get somewhere to take it in order we could have a request to the applicant, give us the actual, clear contraction. You've contracted with X location and Y location to receive the estimated 4,000 to 5,000 cubic yards of material that remained. And absent that, we will then have that data in front of us. If he doesn't produce it, we'll then be at a point to decide whether or not to approve the application versus baking that into the approval, that this approval is contingent upon a showing within the next, 2 weeks that the applicant has secured and demonstrated that there is an outlet for the material. And then additional conditions and so on that would be in our approval to which I don't know if our town council will say that's allowed or within our purview.
I think the first option is better. The second one has too many contingencies, too many.
I'll be the outlier. I was thinking, what about granting a very short-term special exception so that if the Prospect site does open up in the next 2 weeks, he can at least move things out while the landscape is warm. Yeah, I'm just thinking, if we go the other route, we're pushing it back 1 to 2 months. Which means everything's just going to drag on longer. What about doing a 1 or a 2 month permit? Get as much as he can out, and frankly, in the next 1 or 2 months, if Prospect doesn't open up, we have a bigger problem.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting approach.
I was coming down somewhere similar. I think there's a lot of merit to that. I don't want to delay this if it can be moved forward. There are important questions that we still don't have all the answers to. I think a quite a time-limited permit that we understand is not going to allow for the completion of all the work while some of this additional information is being gathered makes sense.
So then in a month or 2 months, he comes back. Prospect may or may not have opened up. He may or may not have moved material. He comes back and requests an extension of that permit. So I'm sorry, I'm just flipping pages to where that extension is. So we're now on 3.3N, Section 8C. No operations are permitted after the permit expires. It would have a tight timeline permit of 2 months. The commission may, however, renew a permit for 1 additional year without a public hearing, provided the applicant submits an updated grading plan and written report by a state licensed surveyor or professional engineer certifying the operation is in compliance with the permit approved by the commission. A written request for permit renewal must be submitted to the commission prior to the expiration of the initial permit. Notice of an application for renewal shall be filed as a legal notice in the newspaper. Non-compliance with the conditions of the original approval shall be deemed sufficient cause for the denial of the renewal. So it's interesting that that extension says it's for 1 year.
But we don't have to go by that. We can just terminate the permit, open it, and then have a public hearing again on a new permit. Like all the things you brought up about safety and welfare, and I think it was health, I forgot what else you said, but at least in the next 2 months, we're going to know if the plan the applicant laid out is moving forward. If we meet again in 2 months and the plan is moving forward and the neighbors are happy that progress is being made, it makes it a lot easier. If we meet in 2 months and nothing is going on, we can put all kinds of stipulations on it, including all the things you mentioned. I just hate to waste time. And again, if I lived there, I would be apoplectic by now.
Based on my understanding of what Chairman just read, though, I think that in 2 months, if we weren't satisfied with how things were going, we did not approve the extension.
Yeah.
There would need to be a new application submitted. There would need to be a new notice of a public hearing. We would lose that month, you know.
At which point we would hopefully, because the applicant is listening, know what all the people that live around these properties he would provide it. He understands what we're saying. He can hire a 1-year graduate student from an MBA program to write a 3-page business plan, or he can get an attorney, or he can get a timeline. He can do he can add these things. Or if we extend and it takes him 4 or 5 months to find somebody else to put the shale in the rock, then he can come back when he has all that. Yeah. Otherwise, it won't get approved. They won't go for it. Yeah. And I like Paul's idea. It's persuasive to me that it doesn't stop things. It keeps it going. If nothing's been done in 2 months, and the applicant doesn't come back with a good plan for moving ahead, that would be it.
So a 2-month permit would expire October 4th or October 5th, is that right? And I believe our October meeting is scheduled for the 6th.
That's correct.
Okay.
You know, I still think the more efficient route is in order to operationalize his process is to identify where he's going to be bringing this, because that seems to be where the delays are. And if he's really sincere about getting this development completed, then he will focus on that, and that will move the timeline.
So you're arguing for a 6-month or 1 year
No,
approval that has to include, in order to move ahead, that identification, or reject the plan and you
No,
send it back?
I'm saying that we should not approve this until he comes back with a plan to informing where he's going to be putting his excess materials, because that's where the delays are. He comes back and keeps on saying, well, you know, Prospect's not working. I've been hearing Prospect's not working out for the past year and a half or so. I mean, what makes you think it's going to happen next month? I don't think it's going to happen. And if he's really sincere about getting this development done, then he will focus on where he could deliver this excess material. And I think that's the most efficient, effective route for this application.
I think your point is good, but as Paul said, if you give this 2 months, he's kind of forced to act and get these locations so that he can move the stuff to those locations. If he doesn't do that, then that's it, basically. So maybe there'd be some progress, and he would identify the sites where he really couldn't keep going. He has to have a place to put this stuff. And in 2 months, he's not putting it any place. And
But as
he's
I
not-
heard, he currently does not have a place to put.
Well, he says he says that in Prospect, he feels he'll get the permit when this person comes back from vacation. Whether that's true, that's what he said.
I'm not feeling it.
And the other sites, I think he's negotiating with them. I don't know where they stand. He mentions there's several other sites.
Kathy, you didn't buy the applicant's comment that Prospect could have come through today?
No.
All right, Rob, fix this for us, please, Mr. Chairman.
No, this is a hard one to try to figure out.
It is.
I mean, I'm not kind of backing away from the 2-month idea now, only because, you know, I think the applicant wants to get this done eventually. I think people on the street want it done now. I'm not sure if 2 months, but everybody here is clear-eyed about the idea that 2 months is not going to be the period of time that's necessary to complete the subject of this permit. In 2 months, are people sitting here going to have the nerve to say, okay, we're done with this project? I kind of doubt it. I'm not meaning to insult you. I'm just thinking, you know, we're all kind of reasonable, rational people. Is anybody here going to say, okay, we just can't do this anymore? I kind of doubt it. So, and then, you know, at that point, if our regulations require that we approve a year extension or not, probably not going to do that. Unless we find a creative and legal way to put very significant stipulations. So I question whether it's the right approach to give 2 months. I want work to continue, as opposed to just saying no today and saying let's have really clear answers to some of these very important questions on where the material's going, a stricter timeline, how, you know, hazard mitigation is going to happen, so that we can move forward with a little bit more confidence that we're approving something that actually is a bridge to somewhere. Because in 2 months, you know, it's not a big priority for the applicant. I don't blame him for that. It's just kind of how things are for his business and his life. It's a big priority for the neighbors. I'm just not sure in 2 months where we're going to be. I'm kind of inclined to say no tonight and to get, significant additional detail, a business plan, a timeline, a hazard mitigation plan, a list, of enumerated sites where a permit's been secured to place the material that's removed.
And especially the latter, I think without that, this project's not gonna go forward. You have to have that.
My biggest concern is making sure that there's not an outstanding hazard in the middle of Luciani Road.
Or above it.
Or above it, and I don't know how we manage that.
And just to confirm, Mr. Chairman, no work is commenced on 114, correct?
So this is
This is the thing.
No, this is an area of confusion, because
Yes,
he does have a building permit, but he can't be doing the excavation, removal, fill activities,
But
but
he could do the removal of
small,
in connection with the construction on 110. That's part of the building permit.
as part of the building permit on 110, he has a limited amount of removal, that 100 cubic yards of material to help create the foundation and do other sort of site work as part of your normal building permit. That is again another unknown from us on where the building permit for 114 stands. It has been approved, but we don't know what activities have been going on there, and we don't know how often those are checked or yeah. So the two, just, Ben, so I'm clear. I think the two options on the table would be an approval of a very time-limited, whether it's 2 months or 3 months of approval with conditions as we normally do in terms of safety, in terms of the placement of the fence. I could see a condition that would, require a way of public communication of his work activities and plans to the neighbors and to the town when he's doing activities. I could envision that required update on where he is moving the material to. So not a condition of it, but just simply, even in these 2 or 3 months, tell us the status of the prospect location and any other locations that he is planning on moving the material to. So that is for lack of a word, a short version of the things we've already basically told him to do for the last 2 years. Ben, so I'm clear, is your proposal to reject or say no tonight? I want a little more on what saying no tonight is. Is saying no, but reopen the hearing and require we will only adjudicate this once we have a full record before us, and give him the laundry list of things that we need in order for us to feel like we can make a reasonable decision under 3.3N and our obligations under 6.3. So that would be us voting to reopen the hearing, come back next month with a more fulsome application than the one-page plan, et cetera. Or is that not a continuation of our public hearing, but a continuation of our deliberations, so we can ask our legal counsel what conditions we can put into a permit? Or is it simply no? And you can say no, and he can file again next month, a new application, having heard what our concerns are, and he would have to come back with another application that tries to address the many things we've talked about today. Which one of those?
I'm just imagining that there's going to be some period of delay at some point until we kind of have the information and the answers that we seek. It's either going to be a delay now until we approve the new permit, or it's likely going to be a delay in 2 months or 3 months when we say, we still don't have the information that we said we wanted. We want that. We're not going to grant you the extension for 1 year, and we're going to need to ask you to submit another permit application, at which time we'll need to schedule another public hearing. It will be an additional delay. I don't mind working. I have other things I could do with my Monday nights, but I don't mind coming here. If you want to have a special meeting in a couple weeks, you know, to revisit this after we answer some of these questions with town council, you know, you can look at my calendar.
You know, a feature when I first joined the Town Planning and Zoning Commission, I think in 2017 and 2018, and a feature of these things that are difficult is in a lot of negotiations, you speak to the other person that's on the other side, and you can't when you close a meeting. Like, we're actually not speaking to the applicant, we're speaking to each other trying to decide what the applicant would do. And that's an odd thing, like for my background, not for attorneys perhaps, or for some others. But it's odd that you can't actually speak to the person who's listening to me right now and go back and forth on these things. And that is something when you get into this sort of difficult situation, there's no ability to negotiate out of it. Anyway, does someone want to make a motion? Is that what you're thinking of, Mr. Chairman?
A motion for what? I don't think we.
Yeah, well,
I'm happy to make a motion. Ben, you did raise the fact we were trying to schedule another special meeting on August
25th.
25th.
Yeah, the 25th is coming up twice now, September and August. I think the 25th of August is a Monday.
you know, I want to say for the record, I don't think Mr. Waskowitz is acting in bad faith. I think he just has different motivations than the people who live on the street. And what we're trying to do is engineer a solution that provides additional motivation for the applicant to be more congruent with sort of, you know,
To elevate his job from a side job to a normal construction job,
but-
which is how I
that's-
started.
But again, that's actually hard for us to do because it's his property.
Right.
He
It
owns
is.
it, and he can
But we're trying
decide.
to think about the neighbors, and in fact, he could treat them a little better and maybe speak to the neighbors more. I don't know, that's what I'm hearing, but.
But if by August 25th, he comes up with a list of firm sites where he could deliver the material, then I would be fine with approving, you know, the application within a confined timeline. You know, that's.
Say that again.
The problem is we can't accept any more testimony or evidence from him unless we reopen the hearing.
That's what I was saying. We can't take it.
But we could reopen the hearing until August 25th.
I'll make a motion that we reopen the hearing until August 25th.
Second.
Continue, I think.
We have to formally reopen it because we closed it and continue it until
Then
August
I'll make
25th.
one motion that we reopen the public hearing.
So moved and seconded, discussion on reopening the public hearing so we can receive more information. Any discussion?
Yeah, can we invite additional written communication also from the members of the town? I'd like to.
It will be reopened with respect to anybody's.
Yes,
hearing.
okay.
No, it's reopened, it's open to
So
everyone.
It's good for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that's clear to everyone here. It's not clear to even some people sitting up here. And
No, and we will, after we reopen this hearing, we will be directing the applicant and others, and we will see.
Town council.
Town councils go. We will have a laundry list of things that at least we want known by August 25th.
And I would like to understand in particular, you know, to expand on some of the comments that were made tonight about the specific hazards and hardships faced by people living in the surrounding neighborhoods. Because I don't fully understand those, and the degree to which those should inform our decision-making is not perfectly clear to me this time. And so I would invite the receipt of more information related to that as it relates to our public hearing.
So the motion is to
Reopen the hearing.
reopen the public hearing. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No opposed?
I think Paul's opposed.
Paul's
Yes.
opposed.
Okay.
Any abstentions? Okay. So we've reopened the public hearing. Now I will move to continue the public hearing to our special meeting on August 25th, 2022, 25, sorry.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the continuation of the public hearing? Seeing none, all in favor of continuing, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? So we have continued our public hearing to August 25th. Okay. At that public hearing, we will want the applicant to provide us specific information on the locations to which the material will be moved in detail. We want the applicant to propose a communication strategy with the neighborhood on how he will effectively communicate the times that he is planning to do work, through what forum or email lists or what sort of mechanisms to do that. And he will also talk about addressing the safety fence at the top of the cliff, which I would advise the applicant to make sure that he's in compliance with all the existing requirements on that regard, but also be clear and explicit on how, as a part of this application, he intends to address concerns for those about the safety fences around the site. Am I missing anything else for our direction to the applicant? Nope. To members of the public, we do encourage the public to come back again. Apologies to continue this one more time, but we do value your input. You've heard from commission members that we particularly value your specific input on how the work and the schedule has impacted you, and your suggestions on effective ways to communicate with you of the activities that are going on. Anything else that I missed there? And then Chris, to our town council and the building department, a better understanding of the existing permits, building permits for 110 and 114 Luciani, if they could provide that information to us in a form that we'll understand of how that has worked and the process by which those building permits are monitored and for progress. And also understanding from town council about the information we received today regarding the potential transfer of ownership of the property during the time when the permits are being applied for. And to town council, a bit of clarity on, to the extent we choose to approve this application, the contours of our approval with conditions, if we chose the route of an approval only if there were a clear demonstrated evidence of an outlet for the material as one of the primary concerns that's been with the council for the last 2 years. Did I miss anything for legal counsel? Nope. It's a good thing this is recorded. I know you're
Yeah,
thinking.
I just go to the recording, hit transcript, and
I think
there you go.
there are plenty of notes. So with that, any other things we have to do on this?
That's all you got on your agenda there.
I know. I move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I'm sorry, who down at this end of the peanut gallery said that?
Thank you.